Here we are. It's another Leeds business podcast. Myself and Rudy together again, and very shortly we're going to be joined by some wonderful guests. Nigel and Stuart. We'll be saying hello to them very shortly. But Rudy, how are you? First of all,
I'm good. How are you, Steve? You good?
I'm very good actually. I've been quite enjoying this week, and I've enjoyed the past 2 weeks. Really, been connecting with lots of people around the world, and I think it's a really interesting time. I don't think I'll be travelling much after all this.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of the world is going to change in terms of when things try to go back to normal. I don't think it's ever going to just completely go back to normal, but I think that video call is definitely going to be the way forward for everyone now. Today in the famous Wolf Den on the Leeds Business Podcast, I'm going to be talking to you about YouTube. There's been some new developments. Basically, I was on a conference the other day, and there's talk of new developments that they've not launched yet, but there's going to be launching soon. I have taken this as YouTube is slightly gunning, I would say, for TikTok. I feel like TikTok, is stepping on YouTube's toes slightly, and YouTube aren't liking it. So YouTube are obviously the biggest online video platform. However, they seem to be wanting to kind of advance how they work how YouTube works and how the users experience it and use it. So YouTube are developing something called YouTube Shorts.
Uh-huh.
Now, YouTube Shorts are basically short form video. So you can upload short clips out to your subscribers where you can interact with your audience in real time. Now, why would this be a benefit to YouTubers, vloggers, businesses, and so on? Well, picture it like this. If you are a business and already have a YouTube channel and are creating how-to videos, providing value to your customer base, the only way currently to keep them up to date with when your next video is going to be, or your next event is by telling them at the end of your previous video, or telling your subscribers via other social media platforms or other social media channels, like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and so on, which can be clunky and can be problematic. Some people are on the social media platforms, some people aren't on all of them, and so trying to you're constantly switching between platforms. Mm-hmm. Now, whereas with YouTube Shorts, you can inform your subscribers with a short video, interact with them, and their users. Basically, I feel YouTube have done this because they're trying to keep users on the platform for longer.
Okay.
It stops users needing to venture off to other platforms, but it also enables businesses and YouTubers and influencers to be able to inform and interact with their subscribers and customer base on the platform, and not have to do it via other channels.
So when's this coming, Rudy? When's it likely to hit the market?
At the moment, there's talk that it's going to be around about May that they're looking at launching this. So that's the word on the street, that they're looking at launching this around May period. One of the other benefits I can see this creating is the fact that YouTube is a Google-owned company, so no doubt it will also improve businesses' SEO rankings too. So if you're on the YouTube channel and you've got a YouTube channel and you're posting content, and then you're also engaging on Shorts, and then interacting with your audience, and then linking that through to your website, it's only going to increase your SEO rankings from that point of view. So there's a few different benefits there. One of the businesses that I know will make the most of this will be a company called CarWow. Are you familiar with them, Steve?
Yes, yeah.
So for those of you that are listening and watching that aren't familiar necessarily with CarWow, it's a car comparison site. So they already have a YouTube channel where they review the latest cars. So they will now be able to use YouTube Shorts to promote their next up and coming videos and events that they're involved in. So yeah, that's just one of the ways.
Interesting development then.
Yeah.
So if people need to keep in touch with you, Rudy, we'll do all that at the end as well. How they can find out more about yourself. But should we welcome our guests then?
Yes, let's do that. So a lovely welcome to Stuart Boucher and Nigel Bridges. And it's going to be awesome to speak to you guys about the company that you're involved in, which is Beacon, and also DMA, and also the Digital Marketing Hub. So can we start with you telling us about that? That'd be great.
Yeah, sure. Steve, Rudy, great to be on. I'll tell you a bit about Beacon, and then Stuart could probably tell you a bit more about DMA and the Digital Marketing Hub. Beacon we're a software product and services company, and essentially we're focused at helping our clients improve their digital campaigns. So yeah, there's a lot of fakeness out there. There are a lot of number of channels out there that will mark their own homework in that sense. And what we're into doing is helping our clients really work out what works and what doesn't across their entire digital campaign estate. So that's where we're coming from, just trying to drive some accuracy and some transparency into this whole sector.
And
so that's
some truth.
Yeah, absolutely. There is so much fakeness. I could speak for hours on all of this, but there's so much fakeness out there. Yeah. And one of the things we're looking to do is just to try to drive coach and horses through that and tell people the reality. If you got 5,000 clicks yesterday, were they really 5,000 human beings, or actually were they 4,500 bots and only 500 human beings who weren't particularly engaged anyway? I mean, you've got to know that kind of stuff to spend your money properly.
Now, know, Nigel, before we talk to Stuart, a few months ago, I didn't even know what a bot was.
Oh,
but, and I tell you what, before we just bring Stuart in, before we do that, there may be some people that still don't know what a bot is. What is a bot then? Let's just explain it briefly if we can.
Very, very quickly. I mean, a bot is, in a sense, a little bit of a generic term. But if you do an advert out there, say a Google ad, and that Google ad is pointing you to your website to, I don't know, buy something or book a holiday or whatever it happens to be, then what you're interested in is you're interested in people clicking on that link, going through to your website and doing something.
Yeah.
What bots are is there are things out there on the internet that will click on links for various reasons, but are not human beings.
Right.
So they might be malicious, or they might be totally benign. But the point is, it's not a human being. So therefore, don't count it as a human being doing what you want them to do.
Right. Okay.
So, for example, there are campaigns out there. We've certainly measured campaigns where there have been 70 or 80% of the clicks are not human.
Wow.
Now, if you're paying for that, that's a lot of waste. But even if you're not paying for that, you still want to know what the right answer is rather than, how many bots have clicked. The norm is probably somewhere between 20 to 30% of clicks on paid campaigns are not human. So obviously, if you can reduce that number, you reduce your spend and you increase the amount of engagement. So it's all about Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. That's very helpful. Stuart, welcome.
Hi there. Very nice to meet you, Steve.
Good. Same to you. I hope you enjoy spending some time with us on the Leeds Business Podcast. So tell us more about yourself then.
Yeah, so I'm Stuart Boucher. I'm Technology Director for Beacon. Nigel and I obviously work together in that. And also on the Digital Marketing Hub, which Rudy referred to earlier, which is a platform that we've created here in the North, where we're focused on creating meetings where marketing professionals can come together and share knowledge and share information and learn things in a safe space. It's very much aimed at senior leaders. Rudy's attended a few of those. And we're also now going virtually, obviously. Everyone is social distancing and staying at home, very rightly. We ran our first virtual hub event last week, and we've got one next Thursday, which is Bring Your Own GMT, if you so desire. And Rudy is kindly agreed to be one of our speakers there, so very much looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Talking about how he's handling, as a business, is handling the impacts of this, which is fantastic. So that's the purpose of the Digital Marketing Hub, but I'm also a committee member of the DMA North. The DMA are the Data and Marketing Association. They're the I suppose the professional body for marketeers, and their ethos is around responsible marketing and the marketing professionals doing the best they possibly can with the information available to them, serving their clients well, but also to keep them in line, to make sure that they conform to legislation. They work very closely with government to try and help inform education. So GDPR, as it was specifically applied to the UK, was something that the DMA led with very closely with the government. And I'm on the North Council, and I'm actually the chair of the Leeds hub for the DMA North. And we're engaged with an artificial engagement awareness program at the moment. So this kind of crosses across all three things. Beacon obviously is very much around adding transparency and truth into marketing information, marketing data. We are very data led. The Digital Marketing Hub is very much around best practice for digital marketing leaders, and the DMA North, as I say, artificial engagement is where we're at. At the last physical Digital Marketing Hub event, which was held at the Walk in Leeds, we carried out a survey of 35 attendees. 100% knew what bots were, Steve, I'm afraid. So we've also been doing our job in terms of sharing the news.
Thank you for that.
And then we asked various questions about who knew about fake news, fake reviews, etc. And there's a very nice infographic I'm more than happy to share with your viewers and listeners. And what was interesting was that 56% of those surveyed, it's a small survey number I know, but had heard of ad fraud, and 72% heard of click fraud, but actually they're the same thing. So there's a lot of confusion around terminology, a lot of confusion around what this means and how people do something about it. And when you have confusion around terminology, it's even more difficult to get to the bottom of it, as I think possibly we're seeing with what's happening in terms of COVID-19 at the moment.
Why do you think Google has allowed this to happen for so long?
Well, thanks, Rudy. I'll take that one first and then hand over to Nigel. I mean, in short, the situation is here because we have a small number of very large players, technical players like Google, Facebook, and others, who are responsible for a significant part of our ecosystem and have no real oversight. If you look at the challenges around voter fraud and around if the Facebook platform being used to put out non-real news adverts around electoral campaigns, how difficult it was to get Facebook to be responsible to governments, to answer to them. It was difficult enough getting Zuckerberg to go to the US. He wouldn't come to the UK, if I remember correctly. So the point is that they feel that they are kind of like in control themselves and they can choose what they do. So when they say, oh, well, this isn't a problem, then tough, it's not a problem, which is the non-political response. So I'll hand over to Nigel to give perhaps a better response there.
I'm not sure what else I can add to that. I think it is very interesting because if you look at a whole load of other sectors, then providers in those other sectors tend to be held to account.
Yeah.
Whereas in the world of digital, you've got two very big providers, so Google and Facebook, who have got what, 60-70% of the advertising market now, and yet they're not held to account by any external body. And I think that leads to an industry where that lack of transparency can be an issue. So, for example, if you're running a series of Google ads and a Google ad campaign, where do you tend to get your results from? Oh, that would be from Google then. So you can just see over time that lack of transparency can begin to be a problem. And I think what I've certainly been seeing is, I suppose really, it's three things. As we were talking about earlier with the bots, firstly is how do you make sure you get real human beings doing what you want them to do as a result of your campaigns? And are you measuring them properly, and are you really measuring them as humans? So that's number one. So getting rid of the rubbish, and you need to do that externally. Sorry.
That's probably Google giving you a call.
It probably is. So, it's making sure that they really are human. And you can only do that by using third-party products rather than the products of the ad channels themselves, obviously. Then the second thing is making sure that you measure the right thing. Because as an industry, we have loved metrics like, cost per impression, that kind of stuff, cost per click. And if I can just be bold, I just think they're meaningless. What's an impression? Oh, I'll get a billboard and I'll put the billboard next to the railway line. Oh, there's a train gone by. Vroom! That's 5,000 impressions. Yeah. It's meaningless. You've got to be measuring something that is really, down to your business KPI. Did you actually sell something? Did you make that booking? Did that human being really do what you want them to do? Yeah. And I think we have to begin to drive into this industry that this didn't. We wasted money here, but we didn't waste so much there. So we'll keep doing that. Yeah. That's a very long answer to your very short question, really.
No, it's fine. And obviously, just to clarify to the viewers, what we're talking about there is holding the platforms themselves to account. So, i.e. Google and Facebook to account. And how does agencies to make sure that when they're using Google or Facebook on behalf of clients, that they are getting the most out of and getting the correct data and actually getting results? How are you working with agencies to help them achieve that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because I do think that agencies can be the solution to the problem. If you think about it, why does the agency exist? The agency exists on behalf of their client to maximize the results for the client's budget. And in order for that to happen, the agency needs to be able to look across everything they're doing for that client, across all the different channels they're using, all the different campaigns, and be able to work out what works and what doesn't work. And so what we would do is we help the agency genuinely work out what is working, what isn't working, because if the client gets better results, then the client is happy, the agency is happy, the budget is spent better, everyone wins.
Absolutely.
So that, it's in a sense, it's that simple.
Yeah.
Can I jump in here a little bit as well? Because I think this is pertinent, which is that I think my view, and this is from many years of being involved with this. I ran an agency for a number of years, a small digital agency in the tech sector, and so I've sort of seen it from that side as well. And agencies themselves are kind of both a victim of this, but also can occasionally be conduits for this kind of activity occurring. And the reason for that is that there's a degree of head in the sandness, if you will. I'm not sure if that's a technical phrase, but the point being is that there's a number that agencies by their very nature are creative. I mean, they're about creating great content that looks fantastic and attracts the right kind of audience to come through and achieve the goal that their client wants, which will be an order or a sale or a lead or something like that, some form of engagement anyway. But they don't tend to be data people. They don't tend to really understand value of data. And they don't really necessarily understand how to use the tools that give them the data. Something like
just losing Stuart now.
Very powerful skill set. So what was that?
Are you still there, Steve?
I'm still here.
Yeah, sorry, I'll continue.
Yeah.
So besides the lack of sort of maybe data skills, which does make them victims, there's a degree of actually, gosh, do we want to talk to our client about this? Do we want to say to our client, perhaps up to 30%, maybe sometimes more, of the budget that we've spent for you has in fact been wasted on non-real traffic? And I think that's a challenge that the whole industry needs to look at itself. And it's one of the reasons why the DMA are fully backing the artificial engagement project in the North, because they're obviously an industry body. They have that sector-wide view that can say, actually, marketeers have an obligation to talk to their clients about this problem and how to solve it and what to do better. I'm not saying the answer is necessarily Beacon, but it possibly is. But also they have the opportunity to perhaps explain to their clients why this is the situation. It's not the agency's fault in the first place. So there's a lot of sort of complicated sort of maneuverings around, how do you address this most effectively?
Yeah, I think from obviously for the regular listeners, obviously people know that I own an agency. I own a social media agency, and I think that you made a valid point. There are agencies out there. Obviously, I'm not going to name any of them, but there are agencies out there that do kind of stick their head in the sand and they just crack on and they don't really. I guess there's a large number of digital marketing agencies out there that are jack of all trades, master of none, and they're on that whole stack 'em high, sell 'em cheap, and all about getting the numbers in. And so a lot of those simply just don't care. I would say, I would go as far as to say, and then you've got kind of your smaller one-man bands maybe that are still learning on the job or are just creatives and don't look at things from an analytical point of view. I think it's in every agency's best interest to make sure that if you're in a specific industry, then you make every effort to make sure that you're fully up to date with all the knowledge in your industry and you're developing your agency at all times. And that includes making sure that you are running from an analytical point of view, that you are up to date with the regular algorithm changes and the changes, because they are constant. They are every single day of every single week. And there are a lot of agencies out there that aren't updating themselves regularly, aren't holding themselves accountable, aren't informing their clients on a regular basis of what's going on in the industry and how they're changing the way and optimizing the way they work to benefit the client. And I think it's quite a great thing that Beacon are doing in terms of being the innovators in that and moving forward to try and stop or to try and at least improve the situation that Google currently has, where an element of and Facebook, where an element of the clicks that are gained are bots, and to be able to kind of get more transparency. So say for instance, with yourselves, tell us more about how the intricacies of how it works. So an agency's got a client. The agency's working with Beacon, and Beacon run the reports, and you find out that there's a certain percentage of clicks that are bots. So what then? What does Beacon do then?
Let me just answer at a high level, then I'll bring Stuart in. I looked at it like this. So you're an agency, you're running a campaign for a client, whatever that campaign happens to be, and you decide, we're going to put some ads out on Google, some ads out on Facebook, we're going to do some emailing, we're going to put some posts out, some blogs, and so on. And of those ads, there might be 2 or 3 different ads on Google, 2 or 3 different ads on Facebook. What you would need to know, and what we're doing, is being able to tell you by ad and by channel what is working best and what isn't. So, for example, you might put 5 different adverts out there, say on Google, and 3 of them really fly, and 2 of them just get swamped by bots.
Yeah.
You pay the same amount per ad, but you know that those 2 that are being swamped by bots, perhaps you turn those off and reinvest that money in the 3 that are less prone to bot activity. So therefore, for the same amount of money, you'll get better engagement. Or it might be something very simple, like saying, we've done some Google ads and we did an email campaign. Funnily enough, we got much better engagement on the email campaign.
We're going again.
Even though Google looked like it worked better. So it's about ROI comparison across each of the channels and each of the ads on in a neutral, transparent manner.
Yes, so as Nigel said, we're looking very much at a combination of mitigation, and mitigation is very important. So also sort of understanding what kind of channels are sending bot traffic through and what kind of messages. And the thing with this is because bots are just send out there to do things. Send out there to look for certain kind of keywords or phrases or activity or sectors or whatever. Yeah, very, very disparate level of different phrasing, whatever it might be. And it's a very big deal. For example, if you spend £15,000 every month on adverts, taking an industry average of 30%, it's about right across different channels, then you've lost 4,500 of that straight away, to non-engaging software. It's not humans. So all of the major ad networks also have very well hidden mechanisms whereby you can go back to them and say, I've seen some invalid traffic and I'm really interested in getting some money back for that. Thank you very much. And as I know Rudy, that's an area that we've been working on, and we're now in the position where we're actually able to work with our agency clients and produce reports that they can then send back to the ad networks and say, I want some of this back, please.
I was going to ask you that. Can you get a bot credit?
Sort of. Basically, the situation we seem to be finding is that if you go back over the report to someone like a Google or a Facebook, they will generally say, oh, there's no problem. But you have to sort of insist and give them the right data. And then they'll say, oh, yeah, fair enough. Then they'll either give you always give you credits back. They never give you cash back. They don't send you a check in the post or anything like that, but they give you credits to spend more money on their platform. But even if you can pull back in 30 or 40% of the money that you think's been wasted, or our tool tells you you've been wasted on bots, that's quite a significant amount. So if you can reduce down bot traffic by 60%, then you're going to see a significantly less amount of money wasted on bots on average. You can reduce it in that scenario of spending £50,000 a month from £4,500 to just under 1,500. So, which is a huge deal that can be reinvested, and therefore obviously increases the number of leads you get, which obviously increases the ROI in terms of the platform. So it's kind of a combination of mitigation by doing things that you said.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest things that I love about Beacon is the fact that you are. That's one of the things that you guys are doing is approaching the likes of Google and saying, look, this specific campaign has lost this amount of money because of the bot activity. You're actively going out there and achieving that, and Google are responding, and Google are obviously giving you that backing credit, which means that agency on behalf of that client can then reinvest in further ad campaigns to get better results, which is,
and it's a really good news story as well for the agency to be able to relay back to their client.
Absolutely,
which is huge. I mean, obviously, depending on the client, they may well say, well, what about the rest of it? But I mean, there's only so much you can do, because we are in the hands, as we said at the beginning, of these big ad networks.
Can I just go back to the when you talked about the impressions and the billboard? Yeah, I love that analogy, because people out there who are not experts anywhere near the experts in LinkedIn and they're measuring the success because they've got 3,500 impressions. Is that totally meaningless then?
My view, personally, shoot me, I think so. Now, is it totally meaningless? No, it's not, because if you got 100,000 impressions on something you did versus nothing, at least it shows there was some degree of success. But I'm not sure you should base your business decisions entirely on metrics like impressions, because it can give you a quantum number, it can give you orders of magnitude, but in the end of the day, you might have 100,000 impressions on something, but that simply meant somebody just scrolled and looked at it and then carried on, and it was meaningless. What you're really asking, did they engage? Are you selling the right thing to the right person through the right mechanism, and did they respond the way you wanted them to? And an impression is just one very, very small slither of the metrics you're trying to work out.
Sorry, Steve, can I add on to that? Because this is relevant to your question about impressions. Rudy's heard me bang on about this before, but bot networks, which is basically a sort of remote controlled network of these little software entities called bots, usually malicious, are a big deal and still a big deal. There was a very significant one that broke apart in 2016 called MethBot, and that they were making revenue of somewhere between $3 and $5 million a day, which is a very big deal. And the way that they were getting their revenue was based upon impressions of video ads. Now, this is why it's relevant to impressions, because their measurement of an impression was that someone had seen the video ad. But what they were doing is they were basically creating fake portfolios. This is fake websites which had fake visitors, which look real, they look genuine. Wow. And what they were doing is they were then pop-undering video ads. So they might show one video ad, and actually, if you were lucky enough and a real person turned up rather than bot to their website, yes, maybe it got seen. But there'd be another 7, 8, 9, 10 video ads underneath that one within frames that weren't being seen, but they were being paid for the impression. So that's why it's relevant to say that an impression has no validity, because you have no way of measuring whether it's actually seen by somebody. It was on their screen. They might have been looking out the window. They might have been drinking a cup of tea. They might have just completely missed it, even if they're really human to start off with. And the thing is that this, you might think, the lessons have been learned from that, from MethBot and other big networks broken apart. Therefore, actually, we are now able to measure those properly. Well, that's not the case, because last year, another botnet called Eve, which is 3VE, another Russian botnet, I'm afraid to say, was pulled down by the FBI, and that was estimated to be making twice the amount of money that MethBot was in the same mechanism. So no lessons have been learned. Or if they have been, they've been learned and thrown in the bin.
So can I just ask then?
Can I just say on that as well, that in the first place, if you are an agency, or any agency worth its salt should not be measuring impressions anyway. It's the same. I would go as far to say it's the same with clicks. And any business that has been fobbed off with, oh, well, you've had this many impressions, Mr. Business Owner, or you've had this many clicks, Mr. Business Owner, you do not take that as a result, because it's not. The results that you should be looking at is your conversion. And, whatever that conversion might be, whether that conversion has led to a telephone call, a web inquiry, a sale, a booking, you should be looking at conversion and your ROI and return on investment. But also on top of that, you should be looking at your cost per conversion, where, your cost per conversion should be coming down and your conversion rate should be going up. And those are the metrics that you should be measuring. And any agency worth its salt should be measuring that and should be reporting on that to their clients. And if they're not, then, well, my opinion on it. I've said it before.
Can I come back and just absolutely reinforce that with two very brief points? Point number one is, I think, as an industry, the reason we love things like impressions is because they're high numbers. When your boss says to you, so how's it going? And you go, oh, we got 338,000 impressions. It sounds really impressive. But we're just smoking things. If only one person bought anything, the real number is 1, not 300,000. The other thing is, just to reinforce that, we got a client, and they were persuaded to run some banner ads in an online newspaper. I won't name them, but they're fairly famous. And they persuaded to run the banner ads, and they ran it through our platform. And they got lots and lots of impressions, but ultimately they only had 3 or 4 click through to their website and 1 form fill. So they took the report back to the site, and the first reaction was, we don't believe you. Well, okay, no, here is the... So they ran the campaign for free a couple more times, still didn't really work. And in the end, the quote from the head of digital from the ad platform was the following. He said, well, I'm sorry, that's just marketing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You bought a certain number of clicks and that's what we gave you. Goodbye. And I think that is outrageous and needs to be called out.
Yeah, 100%. And those are the sorts of individuals that give the digital marketing world a bad name in the first place. And this is what we're battling against on a regular basis.
Absolutely. And it's the smaller and medium agencies can actually be the solution to this.
Yeah.
Rather than the problem. And those that get it and realize they can be the solution will be the ones that keep their clients, give great value to their clients, and constantly add value. Whereas the ones that still see this, they're still part of the problem, as it were.
Yeah.
They've got to start examining their business models, I think.
Now, I have another question for you then, because impressions on LinkedIn, engagements on Facebook, are they similar things, or is an engagement better than an impression?
Engagement is different to impressions, Steve. Sorry,
Okay.
I just wanted to jump in on this one.
Yeah.
So LinkedIn is a different, obviously it's a different platform to Facebook. Google is a totally different thing altogether. We're comparing social media platforms here to Google, which is obviously a search engine. Impressions are totally different to engagements. So engagements are people that are engaged actually with your content. Impression is when you're scrolling through your news feed and you may have scrolled past a post, but you've not actually stopped at it, done anything with it. You've not engaged with it. Right. So you just scroll past your screen. That's an impression. So it means nothing, basically.
God, I'm having my eyes open today, mate.
Engagement is when somebody's seen a post on, if we're talking about social specifically, they've seen a post, they've engaged with it. So they've liked it, they've commented on it, they've interacted with it. Or if it's got a link, then they may have clicked on the link and then gone through to the client's website. If they've got a blog, that sort of thing. That's classed as an engagement.
Okay.
This conversation is similar to the whole follows. How many followers have you got compared to your engagements? Followers, in my opinion, again, is like impressions. It doesn't really matter, because you could have 1 million followers on Facebook compared to a similar industry that only has 100 followers on Facebook. However, just because the one has 1 million followers and the other one has 100 followers, it doesn't mean that the one with 1 million followers is got better quality, that they're getting better results. Because in fact, the people with 1 million followers, you've only got to look at every time that they post content to see whether their engagement is reflective to how many followers they have.
Got it.
So shows that the quality of their followers is crap if they're not engaging.
And don't take the number of followers as being real followers. You can buy followers. There is a market rate for buying followers by the 1,000.
Yeah.
Really?
So I saw someone a little while ago. They spent, I think, $120,000, bought them 4 million followers, 1 million on 4 different platforms.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
So there you go.
The thing is with that, that massively, do not be fooled to think that that's going to help you from a marketing point of view, because actually all it's going to do is completely and utterly harm your brand and harm you from a marketing point of view. Because if you buy your followers, it's obvious that you've bought your followers, because your engagement rate won't be reflective of how many followers you have. Then on top of that, it will harm your brand on the long run, because if you're running any ad campaigns on there, it just won't be effective. And platforms are like Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. Well, LinkedIn, you can't really buy followers on LinkedIn. You can on Facebook and you can on Instagram. That platform itself has taken quite a strong stance on that, and are closing accounts down that they see are fake, have fake followers. However, on Instagram, there are still quite a few celebrity influencers out there, like Kim Kardashian, for instance, who I think 60% of their followers are fake.
Wow. I was going to ask you that about things like that.
Yeah, it's still happening. But
the reason it matters is because some of the ad placing platforms, because they run on algorithms, they will place ads onto people who've got lots and lots of followers. If those followers are fake, I'm still paying for my ad to be placed out there.
Yeah.
So millions and millions of dollars are being wasted on this.
Yeah, in fairness, there has been a lot of work done on display advertising where it is looking much more engagement. But there are, as Rudy correctly points out, so many players in this space who either willingly or just because of ignorance still regard things like influence and impressions and indeed clicks as being valuable in and of themselves rather than at best interesting metrics.
Yeah.
So what's coming out of this for me is as we move into this, let's call it a new era, okay? And where probably people are thinking about working more in this digital space. There's lots of things for these. I'm glad to be sharing this because there's lots of things for people to think about, isn't there? Because people will rush off and they'll get involved with somebody that's giving them this information that, oh, you've got so many impressions, you've got this, you're cooking on gas, everything's perfect in your world, and spending money and not getting any return on it. So what you're sharing today is invaluable.
It's about making sure, Steve, that you do as a business owner, regardless of whatever industry you're in, you're doing your due diligence before you're, when you're looking at doing marketing and you're going into digital marketing to help your business, that you're making sure that you're working with the right type of agency that are that do have the right morals, that do want to run their business the right way, that do want to gain you genuine results, and that have got a track record of doing so. And it's just making sure that you do your research. There are plenty of agencies out there. I like to think that we are one of them that make sure that we go the extra mile to make sure that we do things correctly, and you measure the right results and you are transparent with the client. And there are many out there, but as for as many good agencies that are out there, there are also a hell of a lot of agencies out there that aren't being responsible and aren't doing the right thing, and are just reporting on the wrong metrics and adding to the problem with that we currently have with bots.
I think what's interesting, Rudy, adding to that, because I agree with you completely, is that those who are more burying their heads in the sand tend to be at the larger end of the spectrum in terms of agency size.
Yeah.
So guys, is there anything else we need to cover before we, I think we've shared lots of information today, and how can people find out more about all of you really before we finish today?
I could give you a bit of good cheer if that helps in these COVID times.
Please do.
You were talking about the new normal earlier, and where do we go from here? We're in the next 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. It's still going to be chaotic, isn't it? People are still scrabbling. What on earth's going on? Are we still going to be surviving? How do we make our numbers this quarter? Will we still be here at the end of the quarter? But actually, moving out of this, I think there will be more of an acceleration towards digital. I think more stuff will be done online, and therefore, what we've been talking about today plays totally into that agenda of as we move more online, as people will be doing more home working and so on and so forth, now's the time to get this sort of stuff right.
Yeah, so now's the time to be spending the time talking to people like yourselves.
Yeah. I mean, we've been busier than ever over the past few weeks, funnily enough.
Yeah, let's be honest. Let's be honest. So should we wrap up with some contact details then?
Yeah, so Stuart and Nigel, could you tell us exactly where people can, agencies, where they can get in contact with you? How, the agencies out there that are listening, that they would benefit from getting in contact. How can they get in contact with you both?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll tell you the easy way to do it. Go onto the website, which is thisisbeacon.com. And just fill in the inquiry form, or very happy for people to email. So you can email inquiries@thisisbeacon.com or nigel.bridges@thisisbeacon.com. All of those will get through to me.
I'd like to add to that as well, that on our website, newly produced, is a digital marketing ROI improvement calculator. I'll say that again. Digital marketing ROI, return on investment improvement calculator, which allows you to enter a spend, the amount of clicks you get per month, and the value of a lead or an order, and actually see the numbers for yourself. And I strongly recommend that you do so, because it's quite eye-opening.
Brilliant.
How much you're wasting and how much you could save. Yeah.
And also, yes, how much of a difference you can make. Procter & Gamble spent an absolute chunk of their own money in trying to improve their own return on investment and produce some really interesting outcomes. But they spent sort of 7 figures, which most companies can't afford. Using a tool such as Beacon allows you to replicate that yourself rather cheaper.
Yeah. Okay. And Rudy, contact details from yourself, of course.
Oh, well, I'm obviously one of the hosts on Leeds Business Podcast, so you will probably have heard my contact details before. But we are at www.famouswolf.co.uk or famouswolf.com now as well. I think we've just recently bought that domain. But you can also contact me via telephone number, which is our business line, which is 0113 328 0213.
Well remembered.
Yeah, I was searching at the back of my head. I found it. My email address is rudy@famouswolf.co.uk. But as always, we will continue with the Leeds Business Podcast over the next couple of months. So we'll be continuing with this format, I think, won't we, Steve? Until
I think we will, yes.
We're out of the coronavirus, and then we'll be, hopefully, fingers crossed, back in the studio. And on top of that, we'll be posting clips out on the Leeds Business Podcast LinkedIn page, Facebook page, and Instagram. And we'll also be putting out, so that'll be out today, and then we'll be putting out the video at some point next week. But I'll also be sharing it on my own Famous Wolf social media pages as well. So keep an eye out for that, folks. And stay tuned for the next Leeds Business Podcast.
Cool.
Can I add one thing as well, which Rudy
Yes.
Rudy is speaking, and the key presenter at the next Digital Marketing Hub event, which is next Thursday the 23rd. So do come along and see Rudy at that as well.
Cool.
Thank you. And thank you both, Nigel and Stuart, for being on the show today. It's been a pleasure to have you and get those insights from you. It's been fantastic. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I have learned so much about bots and impressions. I'm over the moon. Great stuff. And whatever you're doing for the rest of the day, I always say have the best day you can.
Fantastic. Thanks, chaps.
Okay.
Thanks very much indeed.
Bye-bye.